Welcome to the Jamesburg Presbyterian Church. Today is Tuesday, February the 16th, 2021. Today is the last day in the church calendar of Common Time. Some people still call it Pentecost, but tomorrow begins Lent 2021. Tomorrow is Ash Wednesday. Today is Shrove's Tuesday, so enjoy the donuts while you can. Today we're taking a look at chapter 8 in the book of Esther, and it's broken into three portions. The first portion is verses 1 through 2. In these verses, we get a couple really important things. The first is we hear about King Ahasuerus, Queen Esther, and Mordecai the Jew. What's interesting is these three titles, the Jew, Queen, and King, have been elevated to a common level, an even playing field, common ground. No longer is the Jew a pejorative term for Mordecai. It is on an equal with King and Queen. We're told right from the very beginning about a reversal in fortunes. Haman, who has been the protagonist in this story, has up till now been winning, but as we know from the end of chapter 7, he is hung on his own gallows. So he is gone, he is out of the picture, and he has lost his life on the very gallows that he was building for Mordecai. And now his property, his home, his furniture, everything that he owned has been taken by the state, by King Ahasuerus, and handed over to Queen Esther, who in turn gives it over to Mordecai so that he can manage this estate. So the irony here is that everything Haman had worked for, everything that Haman owned, is now in the hands of Mordecai, his enemy. In addition, and we're not told this in chapter 7, but the king has removed from Haman the signet ring that he gave Haman. This ring is used to seal in wax orders, laws. It's also used to identify the prime minister, and this ring is now presented to Mordecai. Again, reversal of fortunes. Mordecai was supposed to become a dead person at the hands of Haman, and instead Haman is the dead person, and Mordecai is wearing on his hands the ring, that all-important ring. So the first two verses end this way, just telling us some things. It's a pivotal point in a great reversal in this story. In chapter 8, verses 3 through 17, or rather 3 through 8, we'll take that portion first. We now are faced with the dilemma. The dilemma is this. The king has issued through Haman, but the king doesn't even know what he's issued. The king has issued through Haman a law, and this law not only gives permission, but essentially orders the people of the empire to rise up on a particular day and go out and kill their Jewish neighbors. They're to kill men, women, children, every age group, kill them all. And not only that, but once they do kill all the Jewish people, they are allowed to take into their own possession the properties of the fallen people. Presumably, the law allows the Gentiles of this empire to gather, form militias, and arm themselves. It does not allow, however, the Jewish people to do the same. So the Jewish people are supposed to just be lambs led to the slaughter, to use that old phrase. So how do you fix that, especially when a law is passed? When a law is passed, it cannot be rescinded. It cannot be altered. It cannot be repealed. In essence, what has happened is the Gentiles are ordered to go out and kill all the Jews, period, end of story. And it's going to happen on a certain day of the week. So the king says, what happens is in the verses 3 through 8, Esther once again comes to the king. He extends his scepter And she says, if it pleases the king, and if he regards me with favor and thinks it's the right thing to do, and if he is pleased with me, let an order be written overruling the dispatches that Haman the Agagite devised and wrote to destroy the Jews in all the king's provinces. How can I bear to see disaster fall on my people? How can I bear to see the destruction of my family? Until this time, King Ahasuerus did not know that his queen, his wife, Esther, is Jewish. So this now creates a problem. And notice that she doesn't appeal to him on the basis of a moral dilemma. She appeals to him on the basis of her emotions. This is wise because this king has not made any kind of decisions on the basis of morality, ethics, what's right. He's always ruled from the basis of emotions. And usually it has to do with what's best for him. Well, what's best for him in this particular case is to keep his queen happy. And he knows it and he sees it. But he also has to know that he has dug a deep hole from which he may not be able to arise. So Ahasuerus replies to Esther by saying, because Haman attacked the Jewish people, I have given his estate to Esther, and they have hanged him on the gallows. Now write another decree in the king's name in behalf of the Jewish people, as seems best to you, and seal it with my ring. For no document written in the king's name and sealed with his ring can be revoked. So it sounds like the king is actually doing a good thing. Well, he's not. He's not doing anything. He's deferring to someone else. I didn't create this problem. Haman did. I'm not going to solve this problem. You are. So do whatever you think will work. It's kind of the greatest move for a politician, because if it doesn't work, he can blame somebody else. It's not his fault. He didn't do it. So the king has extended his scepter. Esther, has explained to him all of the problems, and all of the verbs have to do with Esther's feelings, which is wise on her part. She knows this man, and she knows how to play him, and that's exactly what she's doing. So she does all of that. If you find favor, if it pleases you, if you think it's the right thing to do, can you fix this for us? She doesn't argue that this would be a moral dilemma or an ethical dilemma. She argues that it would cause her personal grief if the people were destroyed. So her argument is clear. The king should do something at this point. Once again, the titles are used. Ahasuerus is king, Esther is queen, and Mordecai is the Jew. Again, the important designations here, they're all on the same level, since they're all used in the same sentence. And that's a literary device that would be important for the Hebrew writer, so that we all know, and I'm not making this up, obviously, we need to know that these three titles are at the same level. So the people have been lifted up by title at this point. The question is, can they be lifted out of the mess that they're in? So he's given them no remedy. He's only given them the right to do something, figure it out. In verses 9 through 14, Mordecai issues an edict. And the way he does it, he gathers in all of the secretaries, the royal secretaries, who are going to write this edict in everybody's language, including the Jewish people. As we know, the Persian Empire was a very large land mass. It included many different countries, small city-states. There were many different languages spoken in the empire. There was not a common language. So it was important to write this edict in the language of the people. Mordecai has these scribes write this law. And here's what he says. and it's issued in the king's name, that now the Jewish people, the Jews, have a right to assemble, to form militias, to arm themselves, to kill anybody that comes after them. Men, women, and children, they are allowed to kill them. And in addition to killing them, they are allowed to take their property as spoils of a war. So what has happened is, not only has an even playing field been made for King, Queen, and Mordecai the Jew, but now an even playing field has been leveled throughout the empire. If one side wants to arm and fight, the other side is allowed to arm and defend themselves. And all of this is to happen on the same day in which Haman had chosen by pur, or by lot, or by rolling the dice, whatever he did. But all of this is allowed to happen. So what's interesting to note is we're told sometimes, I didn't read this aloud and I'm not going to read it, but in chapter 3, verse 7, this is the time in which Haman picks this day to roll the pur. And then we're told another date at this point. And if we add up all those days, we find that the days accumulate to 70. 70 was the same amount of time, or the same amount of years, rather, that the people of Israel were in exile. So just a play on words, 70 is also a perfect number. 7 is the 7 days of a week. It's a very important number in Judaism. We like a 7-day week. We don't particularly look forward to a 5-day week. Something's missing. So you get the idea. So in the numerology of the antiquity, this 70 would be an important number. Mordecai's decree is written to the Jewish people. It's written in everybody's language. And they are given the same 3 verbs that the Gentiles were given previously: destroy, kill, and annihilate. So we find out that the way to remedy this situation is to create this even playing field. Everybody will be armed. Everybody will be allowed to gather. Everybody will be allowed to kill, destroy, and annihilate, if that's what it comes to. It's almost comical that, and tragic, that an unjust law cannot be repaired, cannot be rescinded. But that is the case in this particular story. We find that that people we're having to level the playing field in order to remedy the situation. One of the commentaries that I read talked about Nazi Germany, and it said that there were a number of German people, Gentiles, who went along with the murdering of Jews, or just looked away from it, paid no attention to it, did nothing because, well, everybody was doing it. And while later on they would say that they were not anti-Semitic, they cooperated, or at least allowed it to happen within their own boundaries because everybody was doing it. Sometimes it's hard to go against the culture to do the right thing. But the book of Esther points out that that's exactly what we need to do. Risk our lives if that's what it takes, as Esther has done several times now, to do the right thing. The last verses, 15 through 17, Mordecai left the king's presence wearing royal clothing of blue and white, a large crown of gold, and a purple robe of fine linen. And the city of Susa held a joyous celebration. For the Jews, it was a time of happiness and joy and gladness and honor. In every province and in every city, wherever the edict of the king went, there was joy and gladness, with feasting and celebration. And many people of other nationalities became Jews because fear of the Jews had seized them. Fear should not be read as afraid as much as it should be read as reverence. Josephus thought that this is perhaps a place where we might note that people are seeing that God is on their side, that God has taken an impossible situation and turned it around to save the people. Though God is not specifically mentioned in here, that's how commentators chose to interpret this passage. So here is Mordecai wearing the royal clothing, wearing the crown, a reminder of what Vashti refused to do in chapter 1. And now we see people actually happy that they are no longer in the position of having to go out and kill their neighbors. This was a despicable law in the first place, and the people are relieved that they no longer have to do it. There are several commentators that suggest that in the original story of Esther, that this is chapter 8 is the conclusion of the book. We, of course, in our Bible have 2 more chapters, which we'll take a look at next week, and it tells us what happened. We're going to find out that not everybody was smart, that the Jewish people had to defend themselves, that some people did go out and try to murder their neighbors. We're going to find that out. And we're going to get some numbers as to how many people did this. We're going to find out what happened to the rest of Haman's family. Remember, he has sons, he has a wife, he has other relatives. We're going to find out what happens to them. But some people believe that this is the end of the book. But the writer, an editor, somebody has included 2 more chapters, and these 2 chapters will explain the meaning of Purim, the Jewish holiday in which people celebrate with joy and in peace. So next week, February the 23rd, we'll be taking a look at chapters 9 through 10, and then I will have a suggestion for what we do next. Thank you very much. Tomorrow we will do a devotional. That will be at noon. That devotional will be Lent-oriented. And then in the evening at 7 o'clock, we will have an Ash Wednesday service here in the church. That service will be penitential. I've already got the sermon written, and it probably needs a little polishing, but I think it will be very appropriate for Ash Wednesday and the beginning of Lent. This year, the Association of Churches didn't meet because of the COVID problem. We're not going to have a weekly Lenten program this year. We will resume our program during Holy Week, which is the last week of March, with a Maundy Thursday service, Good Friday service, and I hope you will join then. So do tune in tomorrow at 7 o'clock for our Ash Wednesday service. Thank you for watching today. It's always humbling to know that so many people are paying attention to the things that we are doing here in Jamesburg. Thank you. Stay safe, stay well. I will see you soon.